Now it's just a matter of time before we get to see Robert Pattinson back inside the Batman costume. But until that, fans will only have to wait to hear about what Matt Reeves will be doing in that sequel. I have my personal thoughts, and although I have a lot of characters I'd like to see, there are some that just work better with the world set up here. And since I've cast Batman's villains in the past, some of those don't really work within the Reeves universe. So I thought I'd reimagine them to mix better with Robert Pattinson's take on the character. And although I'd really love to see characters like Professor Pig, Hugo Strange, or even Ra's al Ghul, the casting I had still fits for those roles within this universe. Others, like Hush, would definitely need some recasting to fit better, both in terms of age and tone. So today I'm going to be looking at some of these characters that could work well within a sequel and within the Reeves universe. But before we get started, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark is an app and a browser extension which allows you to protect your privacy information, photos, and videos from potential threats. Surfshark allows you to disguise your IP address and lets you select which country you'd like to appear from. And I mainly use it to change my country so I can watch shows that aren't available here. For example, I'll pop onto the US servers and watch Gotham on the US Netflix, and then head over to the UK so I can look at the Nolan trilogy. But even without disguising that IP, it just makes sense to put up that barrier for those who are looking to steal your info. And the great thing about Surfshark is it allows unlimited devices. So use promo code BrianSeeker to get 83% off and 3 months extra free. So check the link in the description below for more details. As for the castings today, we are taking on Mr. Freeze, Joker, Harley Quinn, Hush, and Poison Ivy. So let's cast potential villains for the Batman. First up, we need to talk about Robert Pattinson's take on Batman. He's a younger, far less realized Batman without a rogue gallery as of yet. Now, this version of Batman is in his infancy and is far younger than any Batman we've seen previously. So a lot of his characters will be in that same vibe. Now, first up, we have Poison Ivy. Now, Poison has had some time on screen, but I feel like a darker, more muted version would work incredibly well in the Batman. Something that's more science-based and relying on that herbology almost type. Now, don't get me wrong, I still want her to have that same strangeness and slyness that's synonymous with Poison Ivy, as well as that womanly way. But I think a darker, creepier version would work well. And that's why I ended up on Anya Taylor-Joy. Now, she's killing it in almost everything she's acting in these days, but I think it's important she would do a darker take here and lead into the weirdness of this character and really sell a complex role. But most importantly, I think she'd work well with Robert Pattinson. She's a little bit on the younger side and definitely can play that headstrong, a little bit of egotistical character, as we've seen before.
Could you stop the car, please? I'd like to walk.
To the airport. You're gonna miss the flight.
I think she'd be perfect for this and can pull it off wonderfully. So Anya Taylor-Joy as Poison Ivy. Now, if we're talking about younger characters, I think Hush might be the perfect character for the Batman sequel. Although I'd love to see Court of Owls more, Hush might be a perfect fit. I mean, they even teased it in the original film. Although I did cast Michael C. Hall in this role originally, and I still think he's perfect, he's just simply too old, and I don't think he'd work within the universe in the Gotham that they set up. Now, with Hush, I've always loved the image of Hush and Batman having almost a little bit of parallel. I'm looking for someone who has the same type of feel as Robert Pattinson in the role, and someone who, of course, is around the same age since they should be childhood friends. Now, I went someone a little bit weird here, and someone who's a little bit different than the appearance in the comics, but someone who I think can nail that idea and really execute this role. I went with Dan Stevens, who, yes, isn't that typical appearance for Hush, but I think he fits perfectly for Robert Pattinson's Batman. I can see them being childhood friends, but bringing exactly what this role needs. He can play charming and handsome, which is definitely one side of this role, but he can definitely go dark and disturbed. He isn't afraid of going unsettling, and I think he's due for a villainous role.
What did the kid call him?
What?
You know, the kid, the one Luke hit in the face. What did he call Luke?
I don't think that's relevant to this conversation.
Did he call him a fat?
I believe that's the word that was used, yes, but that's no excuse.
So that makes it a hate crime.
What?
A hate crime. A gay student targeted with physical violence finally defends himself. And you're, what? Suspending him?
He's one of the few actors working today who I think can really do anything. And I think he'd really surprise us in this role and really nail this. So Dan Stevens as Hush. Next up, let's take on Mr. Freeze, and one I feel is really deserving of another on-screen performance. Now, Dr. Freeze can really be done in an interesting way as long as he has that moral backbone that really makes him interesting. He does it all for his wife, and although he does it in the wrong way, if handled correctly, he'd be amazing. Because he has this duality almost to him, it's important we have that menace, of course, but almost a romantic nature as well. I know a lot of people are looking at the actor who played Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, but I think he's almost appearing in too many franchises at this point and turning a little bit into Cumberbatch, as well as I think he lacks that little bit of romanticism here. That's why I end up with Ralph Fiennes, who I feel can definitely do the dark and menacing, Voldemort. But I think he can nail that specific scientific mind, and he's actually got a lot of humanity to many of his roles. He always has this dark undertone to him, but he's played romantic interests, as well as roles with a lot of layers. Although he's more known for his menacing side, I think I could really see him giving that gentler performance with his wife around.
Yes,
Why?
because they'll take you away from me.
So Ralph Fiennes as Dr. Freeze. Lastly, we have Joker and Harley Quinn. Now, spoiler heads for the Batman. Okay, so yes, the Batman has a Joker already. And although I really do like this casting a lot, I really don't want to see Joker yet in this universe. But if we do, I want to see it down the road, maybe in a fourth film. And although I know there's extremely little chance in recasting, I always felt that Caleb Landry Jones would work perfect with Robert Pattinson. Since the moment that he was cast, I was like, this is the perfect guy for Joker to combat him.
You mean like UFC?
Yes.
Yeah, nah, too brutal for me.
You ever get in street fights as a kid?
I did judo after school, first grade.
Judo? With your frame and your genetic makeup, if you really pushed your body, and I mean really trained, no pussyfooting around, you'd be a fucking beast.
And now that we've done so much with the Joker, I think we'd have to go a little bit different, and I think Caleb leans into that perfectly. We need a new spin. Now, this might seem strange, but I want to go a little bit different here. I want to go with someone who's a little bit more deranged and creepy. Someone who has that feel of almost a heroin addict. Weird and creepy and almost deranged and manic. Someone you can just see hiding in a dark alleyway. I want to go no makeup, just scars, as well as that hollowed out look. I think it would give an interesting and a weird, different vibe, and something that's more street level. That would work very well with Robert Pattinson's Batman. So Caleb Landry Jones as Joker. As for Harley Quinn on the other side, we definitely want to play into that street level vibe that we did with Joker, as well as that deranged feeling. She has to have a little bit more of that psychopathic nature, of course, but not nearly as far as Margot Robbie went with it. I want less bubbly and darker, again to match the universe. My choice is Samara Weaving, who I think would do really well here. In Guns Akimbo, you could almost see a take that you would have on this character.
Okay, here's what we'll do. Take a few minutes, breathe, relax.
Okay.
And then go take a shit, because there's nothing worse than shooting a poop-filled corpse. It's like hitting a turd pinata.
She's dark, and I think she would work incredibly well with Caleb Landry Jones as Joker and Robert Pattinson's Batman. So Samara Weaving as Harley Quinn. So there are my choice for the potential villains of the Batman in the sequels. And let me know who you want to see most in the sequel, as well as your choices for these roles. As always though, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.